Hello, today we will be exploring working in real estate with University of Virginia alumni. I'd like to welcome our guests, Jamie Presky, Recruiting Manager with Equity Residential. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you.
And we are still trying to get Gregory Faust, who is a Senior Research Manager with CoStar Group, on the line. He's having some technical difficulties, but we may be able to loop in a little bit later in the episode. So today, let's start off with, why did you choose a career in real estate? Let's start off with Jamie.
Well, I actually didn't really choose it. I would say more that it chose me. I sort of fell into the field. I was an English and psychology major at UVA, and I thought I was going to go the advertising, PR, marketing type route. And I was looking for a job. I had a friend or a family member in residential property management who suggested that I check it out. And after a few months of job searching, I just gave it a shot. I applied for actually a leasing consultant position in the DC area with my company, Equity Residential. And I have now been with the company about 11 years. I totally fell in love with the field and the company. So it was sort of my accidental career, I would say. I was looking for one thing and then ended up landing in something that I completely love.
Wonderful, that's great. Greg, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm on the phone right now.
Why did you choose a career in real estate?
Yes, so I honestly just have always been interested in real estate. It sounds kind of crazy, but even when I was in high school, I was looking at houses in the local market and watching the home flipping shows on TV. My aunt's an architect, and just kind of it was around me, and for some reason I just kind of had this peripheral interest in it, and didn't think about it too much when going to school, like formal college, but I got into it as an agent. I took the real estate courses sort of on my own time down in Charlottesville, became an agent down there when I was at UVA, and so I came at it from sort of the agent perspective when I was there. But funny enough, I was, in undergrad, I was studying foreign affairs and minoring in biomedical ethics, so I really kind of was wearing two hats at that time, and was interested in finance and economics and markets, but had a lot of different interests and just sort of was doing it almost as a hobby on the side when I was in school. And, that's kind of how I jumped into it in the first place.
Very neat. That's very cool. So let's jump into the next question. What were your biggest challenges your first year of work? Jamie, do you mind if we jump into you?
I started in sort of a different side of real estate, in residential property management. And I started in a position that was very much customer service based. I was working at an apartment building in the DC area, interacting with the current residents and prospective residents looking for a place to live. So I was very, I think, just overwhelmed by how much more difficult customer service was than I anticipated. I had to learn to develop a thick skin. I had to learn problem solving in a really fast-paced environment very quickly. And I was working in an environment without a manager around to give me answers all of the time. So thinking on my feet and taking initiative, and again, just problem solving and dealing with all sorts of different personalities. That was, I think, a big challenge for me early on in my career. As I advanced within the company, which really is part of why I got hooked and stayed, because I saw such growth potential. I was managing a multi-million-dollar real estate asset by the time I was 24, and I had a team of people reporting to me. I had a budget I was responsible for. It was just a lot of learning and thinking on my feet, and learning when to ask for help, learning when to rely on mentors and my network. And just in general, I think going back to that first year, though, just learning to be a professional, learning to transition out of the student and college lifestyle. And even if you've had an internship and had jobs all along, it is a big adjustment to just go into the working world and have a totally different schedule, and really just learn to communicate across all different levels of your company, and just take that strong work ethic that you've already developed and applied in school, and apply it to a different type of scenario. I think those were all the learning curves that people will experience really in any field, but that in my experience in real estate, it was definitely the case.
That's amazing. What a crazy first year. That's so impressive, though. Strong women. I love it.
It took me a few years to get to that management role, but yeah, I think I was working with the company for maybe 3 years before I became a manager in that position I mentioned.
Wonderful. So Greg, what were your biggest challenges in your first year of work?
One of the biggest ones I'd say is besides just acclimating to the office culture, the pace. At least at CoStar, when you're a research associate, you've got 8 hours that you have to get all of your work done in. You don't have extra time. You can't come in on weekends. And so you've got to figure out how to fit everything in and manage your time such that you can get it completed in that 8-hour workday. So it's nice in a way. We don't, you're not here in the office 50, 60 hours a week, but at the same time, you've got to get the work done and you've got to get it done on time. So I'd say that was kind of one of the big challenges. And then the other one was just recognizing that every job does have that learning curve. You're not expected to know everything on day one, or in 3 months, 6, 9 months, you're expected to know kind of how to do your job and begin to be proficient in it. But that, you're going to have that learning curve and don't expect to get everything right on the first try, that it's okay if you make a mistake and then you get on to the next thing. So that's definitely the second piece that I would say.
That's some really good advice. Thank you. Could you describe a typical day or week? Jamie?
Well, I've been in several different roles within my company, so that's changed as I've gone along. Right now, I'm a recruiting manager for my company, so I oversee the hiring strategy for all of our positions. I'm based in DC, and I also handle the day-to-day recruiting for our DC market, but then I'm responsible for employer brand and university and college outreach. And just overall strategy throughout the company. So on any given day or week, I'm interacting with prospective candidates. I'm always out there looking for good talent. So I love college recruiting. I came to the UVA Career Fair in February. That's the kind of thing I love to do. But when I'm not out at events, I'm in my office talking to people over the phone, meeting with people in person, and really trying to assess if they're a good fit for the organization. But, so it's a different skill set than I was using when I was on site managing properties. But one thing that's always been consistent that I'm always doing in this business is communicating. And so I think no matter what type of role you're looking at within real estate, definitely perfecting your communication abilities and your comfort level with interacting with people and presenting. And certainly written communication, it's always going to be a part of what you're doing. But I know what I do and my side is very different from Greg and Adam on, on the business transaction side or on the research and analytical side. So their answers will probably be a bit different from mine.
Sure. In my current position, I'm like Jamie. I've transitioned through a couple different roles, but now I'm being a senior research manager. I'm really responsible for a lot of ongoing training and development and sort of operations, project management, and kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And so for me, a lot of it is making sure that my researchers have the reports that they need to be able to organize their days, that they know what their assignments are for that day or a week, having huddles a couple of times per week, a lot of one-on-one meetings and coaching and training sessions to make sure that they're comfortable with the work that they're doing, that if they have questions, that I'm available to answer those questions. And then also planning meetings with my co-managers, with my direct supervisor and her supervisor to make sure that we know what problems may be coming over the hill, if there are quality issues, working with our sales teams and the market managers to make sure that, kind of all the pieces fit together. Kind of conversely, to sort of bring it to, somebody who's, looking at coming into the company or into a role like the research associate role that we have here, it really is sort of that managing your day, preparing your to-do list before you leave the next day, getting ready to, in the research associate role here, make your calls, call your brokers, call the contacts, interview them about the market and what's going on in the market and the availabilities that they have. Being able to build those relationships and making sure that you're reaching out to everybody regarding any projects that they have, construction, buildings that are under construction, new developments, really gathering all that information. So it's, kind of that difference between going out and getting the information and using the tools that the managers provide you, and then also as a manager role, preparing all those reports for the research associates.
Sounds like a lot of project management.
Lots, yes.
Wonderful. So do you have any recommendations for how someone could prepare for and succeed in getting a job in real estate? Jamie?
Well, in my own experience, I didn't necessarily prepare for it. I fell into it. But I think what I would say is to be very open-minded about what your start in the industry might look like. My company, again, we do multifamily. We own and manage multifamily real estate. So we're residential property management. And when I go out recruiting, I often talk to people who haven't really thought about this as a part of real estate that they would be interested in. But then once they do hear about it, a lot of times we get a great interest and a great level of interest. And I would just say, again, be very open-minded. A lot of the jobs that people are really coveting right out of school are very competitive, but you can really find your way into the industry through making different connections, really utilizing your network. And again, just being open-minded that position you take today shouldn't be the position you're in a couple years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. So just look at it as an opportunity, as a stepping stone, and to learn something from everything that you do. Every step along the way is definitely a way to keep propelling you further. Again, use those connections, use LinkedIn, use the alumni network, and just do as much research as you can. There's a lot of great information out there, organizations that you can get involved in. Last time I was on grounds at UVA, I heard that there's a new real estate club that some students started, I think, just last semester. So there are a lot of different ways that you can just get your interest out there and start making a name for yourself, and just keep using those networking abilities.
I love it. Thank you. And Greg, what recommendations do you have for how someone could prepare for and succeed in getting a job in real estate?
Sure, and I'll echo a little bit also of what Jamie said there. I was a little bit prepared, but not entirely prepared. Didn't quite have the focus. So, and I think the important thing to think of is that that's okay. It's really about kind of looking at it as there are so many different facets of the real estate industry, from brokerage to asset management to development, going into being an assessor or an appraiser, economists, finance, debt, equity, urban planning, lots of different avenues for somebody to take. So the question is, you don't have to know exactly what it is right off. It's kind of getting your feet wet. Building your relationships, really work on both your EQ and your IQ. You want to be able to connect with people, so you can learn a lot about the industry, but you want to be able to connect with people and be able to build those relationships. So that's one big piece. And then, also kind of recognizing that no matter what you choose, the industry is cyclical. There are going to be good points in time to jump into one area of it, maybe not another. So try to pay attention to that as you're working through your career. And then also shoring up any sort of technical abilities that you have. My researchers use Excel all day, every day. I know I have a lot of friends who are in development. They use Excel, Argus, different softwares to sort of analyze the market. So that's another thing that if you are breaking further in, that's something that I think is important. But really, it does come back to the people. This is a people-driven business, and the network for jobs or for deals or for just business in general, especially in real estate, is extremely important. So, staying in touch with any potential contacts, mentors, and colleagues is one of the key things.
Networking. So what do you like most about working in real estate, Jamie?
I think, what I found is no matter what your role is, and the different ways that I've been in the field, the different roles I've held, everything I've done, it's been a fast-paced, challenging environment. It's, I think, a people-centered industry. So it's, whether that's your customers or your colleagues, it's a people person's business. So I love that. Every day's fun, dynamic. There's a lot of personality to this business. It's also, part of what makes it so challenging is also really exciting. It is sort of cyclical. As Greg was saying, you have to really be able to hang in there through the ups and downs. So when things are fast paced, in DC, the multifamily industry is still going crazy. There's a lot of construction all over the area. And so it's remaining very competitive, and we constantly have to readjust our strategy. So it's exciting, it's demanding, and it's definitely something that challenges you every day. So, and I think, again, it's all about relationship building. So keeping and maintaining and building relationships makes it really fun.
Thank you. All right, Greg, so what do you like most about working in real estate?
One of the first things is that for me, it's tangible. No matter what kind of area you are in it, you can see the results. There's a building at the end of the day, or a piece of land, or something that is ultimately changed. Even if you're on the financial side of the business, you're providing the financing for something to happen. And I like seeing those, real results, sort of physical results and changes. I think that's one of the most exciting things, especially being around DC. There is so much going on, like Jamie said, lots in the multifamily sector, and just so many different changes, especially in the last, I graduated in 2010, 7 years, this city has changed a lot. So that's been really interesting to witness. And then it's also, you can choose if you want to be local, if you want to be regional, national, or how expansive you want your sort of sphere of influence to be. You can kind of determine that based on what path you take. And then another thing for me was, I'd always invested in stocks and bonds when I was younger, even with my father before college. But it's really interesting to understand a new asset class and something that not everybody is attuned to, and compare that to what are typical traditional forms of investing, if you will, and how does that differ, and what are the rules that you have to play by in that new asset class. So that was another thing for me. And then, as Jamie said, it's fast-paced, it's always changing. I have really formally been in the business for 7 years here at CoStar, and I am always learning something new. There's always something that I can pick up, either from a peer or from somebody else in the industry. And I haven't been bored a single day in the last 7 years, and I don't expect to be anytime soon. So that's something that I think is really, great about getting into the real estate business.
And that is so important, because there's a lot of jobs out there where it's like, once you kind of figure it out, you figure it out. And so always having something interesting and new changing, that's really neat. So Jamie, do you have any final advice for University of Virginia students interested in working in real estate?
Well, a couple more things were kind of going through my head. I've been nodding along a lot to what Greg's been saying. A lot of it, I think, is really good advice. And I think the skills that you want to focus on will depend a little bit on what area of real estate you want to get into. If it's the sales angle that you're interested in, you really have to be sure that you're great at follow-up, and again, that your communication is top-notch. If you're interested in doing something more on the research side, on the analytical side, those Excel skills are key. I kind of go back and forth between looking for salespeople, looking for analysts, looking for people with different technical skill sets in Excel. Can't stress that enough, how you just really need to become a master in that if you want to get into that side of the business. An internship is a great way, of course, of getting your foot in the door. So, for students who are still in their years, if you're looking to get into this field eventually, any way you can track down an internship in the field, including, in property management or in development or in any capacity, will be helpful. But overall, I would go back to what we've been talking about, which is that relationship building and networking piece. It's a small world, the world of real estate, and I'm in the DC area, and I've been working in the field for a while, and you keep coming across the same people, seeing the same names, sort of running in the same circles as people who you've crossed paths with, and I just can't stress enough the importance of really maintaining those relationships, never burning a bridge, treating every experience you have with just the utmost professionalism, because your reputation will really take you a long way in whatever field you choose, and you'll be surprised how you might need a connection from a previous work experience or school experience. So just be really thoughtful about the relationships you make and the way you maintain those, and do everything you can to learn and show that passion and initiative. If you are job searching in the field, I'm sure all of you are probably on LinkedIn by now, but if you're not, that's really a great place to be, to make connections and to seek people out. If there's a company you're interested in and you've been applying online, you can pretty easily figure out who some contacts are there. And there's an appropriate level of contacting either the recruiter or the hiring manager. If you reach out through LinkedIn and make an introduction, it'll usually make a good impression, as long as you don't go over the top with daily and weekly follow-ups. But just learn to use those connections, and just don't give up. Again, it's a cyclical up and down type of business, but if you really persevere, then it could be a really great field to start and grow your career in.
Thank you so much, Jamie. So Greg, any final advice for University of Virginia students interested in working in real estate?
Yeah, so I don't know, this kind of applies across the board. I agree with everything Jamie said. And then also, for kind of anything that you're looking to break into, just remember to set yourself up for small wins. This is something that I work with my researchers every day. Look for a small win, achieve that, and then move on to the next thing. You can work your way up to bigger wins after that. I think that's really important to remember in an office climate when there's so much going on, so many different assignments that need to get done. Being able to check off a box each day, it can be very, very helpful just with motivating yourself and keeping yourself going when you've got a lot on your plate. And then just another thing is remember that you don't need to get promoted every 6 months. I've hired a lot of people right out of college. They look for the next big thing. The grass is always greener. They're looking for the next promotion, the next pay bump. And just to remember that it sometimes takes time. A lot of these roles are, once you kind of get a couple of promotions in, you're looking at something where that is a career for some people, and that's kind of where they're comfortable. And so it's important, even if you are a go-getter and you're competitive, to make sure that you get comfortable in each role before you go and look for the next thing after that. I think that's very important. And real estate's very competitive. You're always trying to move to the next thing, to find the next deal, to look for the next sort of big piece that will sort of launch you forward. But don't forget all the small things along the way and all the little wins. So I think that's kind of my advice, just for this industry or any industry that you'd be jumping into.
I think that's really good advice for me today at work. I love that.
I love that too, actually. I say that to people a lot. I think there's a really fine line between ambition and impatience. And, obviously, if you're at UVA, you're an ambitious person. You're a go-getter. You have a lot of goals for yourself. But that'll show up in the way you attack your career as well. But, people around you don't want to just necessarily see you going for something before they think that you've put in the time and what you're doing. So you really have to, I think, dig in and become a master in what you're currently doing, as Greg was saying. I really like the way you said that. And then, make sure you express that interest and take initiative to show that you're ready, but also be patient and make sure that you've really mastered what you're doing before you ask for more.
That's wonderful. Well, I'd like to thank you both for joining us today, and I apologize for some of the technical difficulties, but you both have rocked it, and I think that we've gotten some really good information for UVA students. So thank you so much.
Thank you.